Hi, welcome to a fresh update here on the channel. Two bits of information are the focal point for this video. I guess we'll start with the bad news first, and that relates to Nick Newman, who evidently has suffered a knee injury at training. We got a report early this morning via Tom Morris about it. Don't really know the severity of the injury at the time of filming this video. What we do know is that he hurt himself at training. It is the opposite knee to the one that he injured in 2020, and we'll have more information, I guess, once he has a scan or once we get all the full context of what happened. So, not ideal. That's two bodies down in a couple of days now. Obviously, Sam Walsh being the first one, and so Sam Walsh on the minor end of the scale, given that it's a minor hamstring from the way it was reported. Seems like it's going to keep him out of action for a month, but more so probably just more of a reminder of this is Sam Walsh and Sam Walsh's story, and unfortunately or fortunately he has to take a break for about a month before he resumes full training. But Nick Newman is the other one, and maybe we can spend some time talking about the situation. So, Nick Newman, he had a few injury concerns in that 2020-2021 period, but he's been able to play the 48 games across the past two seasons. So he's really turned into a reliable, consistent performer. We talk about him doing the basics so well, most, if not all of the time. And I think what we miss the most, the idea of not having Nick Newman in a team, is more to do with firstly, his ability is fine, but secondly, it's more his IQ, it's more his leadership, it's more his voice, it's more his presence around the backline group and the team in general. And, as we always say, an injury is bad news, but also it creates opportunity. And fortunately, I believe, in this case, it's coming in a part of the ground which is A, getting a bit of a makeover, and B, we have a bit of depth in this position. Halfback flankers, we have plenty of them. Newey is a bit more than a halfback flanker, but predominantly that's where he does play. We've seen Ollie Hollands being spoken about as a guy that's going to be moving behind the ball, so there is obviously added responsibility and opportunity there for a guy like Ollie Hollands. We know Jack Silvani is playing in defence. I don't think that's going to relate too much to the Nick Newman role. I think the other one that comes to mind when it comes to opportunity is Lockie Cowan. The first two that I thought of when it came to opportunity was Ollie and Lockie. And if this knee injury is serious and it's going to keep Nick Newman out for a game or two or three or whatever it is, then at least the two of ththose young fellas who are stepping into their next phase of their career, at least the two of them are ready to take more responsibility. And then, there's, beneath the surface there's the Billy Wilson position. Is he ready to come and play games now? So a lot of it is speculation at this point, but it does beg the question, because injuries are going to happen. I think we've all come to understand that now. Pre-season is when you're pushing your body as best as you can, and with that you're probably going to cop a few injuries. And another reminder why it's important to have depth and a squad. So that's the Nick Newman information. And then David King was at training, so we got a mini training report. He had the following to say: good numbers on the track, obviously no Kerno or Walsh. Centre halfback, the biggest selection question. Silvani and Ollie across halfback look good. Moya just might be a difference maker. The usual suspects driving the standards. If healthy in 2025, ... He's not wrong, if healthy. I think we've been saying if healthy with this club for a long time, but it is true. And so losing Walsh and Newey for the next little bit of time is not ideal. But as mentioned there, Ollie gets a mention across halfback. Cool to see that Ashton Moya was worthy of a mention in David King's tweet. Now, it's just his observations. Obviously, it is match simulation, but to be singled out in his X amount of characters that he used to explain what he saw at training is, I think, a positive sign. I can definitely say I've noticed Jackson Binns seems to continue to get a mention here or there. His name just keeps popping up. Jacob Wiedering singled him out last week in his training recap from his point of view. So positive signs there, positive signs that Ollie's looking good across half-back, same with Jack Silvani. And yeah, I think the other one is Jesse Motlop. That's obviously had a mention yesterday. He was on summer sessions as well. Like I said, a few weeks ago, I think it was. I just look at Jesse Motlop and I don't know, for me it's just so clear. I think he's got all the elements. I think it was just a really disappointing and unfortunate lesson, or fortunate lesson for him last year in his body and the realities of what can happen. And it's always you never want to see injuries, but I think also for a career, it's almost necessary to have moments where the game's taken away from you, where there are things inside and outside of your control, and learning how to maneuver through them and giving some perspective. So I think 2024 will be a blessing in disguise for Jesse as he trains hard and works hard for a better 2025, and we need him to. You know, he's going to be one of those players that I think we are going to rely on a lot more, given that Matt always has departed, so there's opportunity there. And that's the latest. A couple of injuries, a couple of highlights from training, a couple of guys getting singled out for their great training performances, and that's it so far. I'm curious though, with the Nick Newman information that we have now, as I said at the time of filming this, we don't know the severity of it. We just know that he hurt himself. We will have an update on that hopefully in the next few days. Who do you think of when you are forced to think of the next phase after Nick Newman? So obviously if he was healthy, I would assume he would be in the side given the level at which he plays. But you know, the reality is the game keeps moving, and as you get, you know, further and further into your 30s, naturally, you know, you've got to start thinking as a club of, you know, who you're going to replace that player with or that role with. So who is that player, or who are those players that you think will make the most of more opportunity across half back? Let me know in the comments and we'll chat about it there.